Have you ever stopped to think about how incidents involving political figures can change the course of history? Well, many are talking about it, and it's no coincidence. When leaders are threatened or targeted, the impact goes far beyond the individual. We're talking about changes that could affect the future of an entire nation or even the world. But why do these actions happen? What drives someone to go to the extreme of trying to eliminate a public figure? Is it fear of the changes to come? Or is it the reflection of a society that is increasingly divided? The truth is, with each new threat, the political future seems more uncertain. But are these predictions of significant events, which make the headlines and daily conversations, an inevitable fate? And most importantly, what does this say about the current state of our society? In this video, we will dive deep into this discussion, offering you a unique and powerful perspective. And for those looking for answers to the chaos, we'll explore how Buddhist philosophy can offer a transformative view, showing that inner peace is possible even in times of crisis. If you think political conflict is just another event of today, get ready for a journey of reflection that will show you how it can shape tomorrow. Together, we'll uncover how these actions might be signs of something much bigger, something that, if not understood, could have profound consequences. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover is something few talk about, but everyone should understand. Incidents involving important political figures always capture public attention. It's not just the immediate shock of such extreme acts, but also the questions they raise about the current state of society. Many wonder, what drives someone to try to take the life of a leader? The answer is not simple. These actions are often the result of a combination of personal motivations and social contexts that together create a perfect storm of frustration, fear, and desperation. Modern politics, especially in times of polarization, becomes the fuel for such significant events. Behind these actions, there is often a sense of powerlessness that the person involved tries to convert into control. When words and dialogue fail, some turn to extreme measures as a desperate way to influence change. In the mind of someone planning such acts, eliminating a political figure may seem like the solution to what they see as injustices or failures of the system. However, these actions also reflect a profound disconnection from the democratic process and the belief that conflict can fix what dialogue could not. These incidents also highlight a collective sense of vulnerability. When an important figure is targeted, the public feels the impact, not only because of the event itself, but also because of the underlying message that no one is entirely safe. This fear spreads quickly and creates a ripple effect, influencing both public opinion and security policies. Governments and institutions are forced to re-evaluate their protective measures, and the debate over freedom and security takes center stage. Each incident brings a wave of changes that affects both the political landscape and everyday life. It's interesting to observe how, historically, these incidents often have the opposite effect of what was intended. Instead of weakening the targeted leader, these actions frequently strengthen their public image, generating increased popular sympathy and political support. The person behind the act, who sought to eliminate someone's influence, often ends up solidifying their position. This shows that using extreme measures to alter politics can backfire, revealing the complexities of trying to manipulate power through radical means. Therefore, it's clear that these incidents carry a symbolic weight beyond the immediate action. They reflect the tensions of a society that in critical moments finds itself without easy answers. Modern politics is full of challenges, and while many choose the path of dialogue and democratic action, others resort to extremes. the impact of these actions reverberates for a long time, forcing societies to reflect on their values, policies, and the true cost of conflict in the public sphere. Incidents involving political figures often raise a crucial question. Are these acts motivated by fear of change, or are they simply a reflection of a deeply divided society? When we look at the current political landscape, especially in countries like the United States, polarization has become a dominant feature. Politics is no longer about moderate differences of opinion, but about extremes. In this heated environment, change is perceived as an existential threat, both for those in power and for those who feel excluded from it. Many times, these actions arise as a reaction to the fear of the unknown. Change is frightening, especially when it represents a break from values or structures that were once considered unchangeable. For some, the idea of a drastic political transformation is intolerable. The fear of what's to come is enough to push someone to the extreme of trying to eliminate the symbol of that change, the political figure. In this sense, these actions can be seen as a last-ditch effort to stop the inevitable, to fight against the tide of transformations that are on the horizon. On the other hand, we can't ignore that these acts are also symptomatic of a deeply divided society. In recent years, the gap between different segments of the population has widened. Social, political, and even economic groups are in constant conflict, and these incidents reflect this growing tension. People, instead of debating or seeking joint solutions, feel that the only way out is through extreme measures, whether due to frustration, resentment, or pure hopelessness. Every incident reminds us of how fragile the social fabric can be in times of crisis. Politics, which should be the space for dialogue and negotiation, often turns into a battleground. And this polarization isn't limited to the political sphere. It invades the streets, homes, and minds of people, making them more susceptible to extreme solutions. Conflict, then, becomes a reflection of this division, an echo of the lines that have been drawn and now seem non-negotiable. When opposing sides view each other as irreconcilable enemies, drastic measures become, for some, the only visible path. Therefore, when we look at these incidents, it's essential to recognize that they are much more than isolated acts of aggression. They are an expression of fear of deep changes and a society that can't find a middle ground. The challenge these situations present to us is simple but profound. How can we prevent fear and division from pushing us towards desperate solutions? Finding the answer to this question may be the key to healing the wounds that divide societies and preventing these acts from continuing to happen. Incidents involving political figures not only shape the present moment, but also have the power to shape the future. History offers us countless examples of leaders whose untimely deaths or near-death experiences drastically changed the course of their nations. When a political figure is targeted or survives such an incident, the immediate impact is obvious: shock, fear, and a reorganization of power structures. However, the long-term consequences can be even more profound, as these actions can change not just the fate of a country, but also how the political system operates. Take events like the targeting of John F. Kennedy, for example. A drastic act that not only disrupted a presidency, but transformed the way the United States handled its domestic and foreign policies. Such incidents force a rethinking of leaders' security, the role of government, and even the meaning of democracy in times of crisis. They create gaps in political continuity, opening space for new actors, policy changes, and even shifts in how the public views power. Often, these events serve to accentuate existing divisions, leading to greater social instability. Furthermore, these incidents deeply affect the social fabric. when a leader is targeted, the public can feel that the very system meant to protect them is at risk. This can generate a widespread sense of insecurity, where trust in institutions begins to crumble. Society starts living in a constant state of alertness, which can create an atmosphere of fear and distrust. Such an environment is rarely conducive to a healthy country's development, leading instead to greater polarization and, in many cases, more radical political reactions. Historically, we've also seen instances where political incidents have spurred significant changes. In many cases, such extreme actions against leaders accelerate reforms or create urgency for changes. When society witnesses the fragility of its public figures, it often demands new security policies, stricter legislation, or even political reforms that seemed impossible before. The fear of future incidents can act as a catalyst for drastic changes in the short term, even though these changes aren't always the best solutions to the underlying problems. Finally, these events also spark discussions about the future of democracy and governance. When leaders are targeted, the stability of the political system itself is questioned. Incidents can shake public confidence in government, elections, and the very foundations of democracy. This opens the door to new crises, where citizens begin to question the legitimacy of the political process and the institutions meant to protect them. The future, after such incidents, is never the same, as it forces nations to reconsider their values and priorities, while testing the resilience of modern democracies. In moments of crisis and uncertainty, like those caused by incidents and threats involving public figures, it's natural for people to feel fear and despair. However, Buddhist philosophy offers us a different approach to dealing with these situations. While the world around us may seem engulfed in chaos and unpredictability, Buddhism teaches that peace begins within us. The key lies in understanding that suffering and fear are inevitable parts of life, but they don't have to dominate our experience. Instead of succumbing to despair, we can cultivate serenity, even in the most challenging times. One of the central teachings of Buddhism is the concept of impermanence, the idea that everything is in constant flux. This includes both political circumstances and our feelings of fear. By recognizing this truth, we can learn to accept the natural flow of events without being consumed by anxiety. After all, resisting change only causes more suffering. Buddhist practice invites us to embrace the present with mindfulness, understanding that the future is uncertain and that our response to it defines our experience. This teaches us to live more consciously and less reactively. In times of political incidents and threats, many people's instinctive reaction is fear, and in some cases, a desire for retaliation or drastic measures. However, Buddhism reminds us that conflict only begets more conflict, perpetuating an endless cycle. To break this cycle, Buddhist philosophy suggests the path of compassion. When we face chaos with understanding and empathy, we transform not only our experience, but also the impact we have on the world around us. This doesn't mean accepting injustice, but choosing a path of peace in the face of adversity. Another important teaching is detachment. In a political landscape where fear and uncertainty dominate, detachment offers us a way to avoid being ruled by external circumstances. It's not about being indifferent to what happens in the world, but about not letting events dictate our mental and emotional state. Detachment allows us to act more rationally and balanced, even in the midst of crisis. From this position of clarity, we can make decisions that lead to peace and stability, both personally and collectively. Finally, Buddhism reminds us of the importance of community or sangha as support in times of crisis. No one needs to face adversity alone. Connection with others who share values of compassion and peace can give us strength and hope in uncertain times. In a world that seems increasingly divided and filled with conflict, finding a space of mutual support and understanding may be the key to maintaining inner peace and cultivating a more peaceful environment around us. Ultimately, the Buddhist path shows us that, even in the face of great uncertainties, peace is a choice we make daily. Now that you have a deeper understanding of how political incidents involving public figures can shape the future, it's time to reflect. How does this directly impact your life, and what can we learn from it? Are we, as a society, prepared to face these crises more consciously, or will we continue to be held hostage by fear and division? What do you think needs to change for us to move toward a more stable and peaceful future? Think about how conflict and chaos are just symptoms of deeper problems that we can and must address. If Buddhist philosophy teaches us anything, it's that peace begins within each of us. So how can you apply this knowledge in your daily life? What will you do differently to bring more balance, both in your personal life and in your interactions with the world around you? If this content made sense to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss the upcoming videos and can continue deepening your knowledge on topics that truly make a difference. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.